What's going on, everybody? It's AG here. Week 8 of the college football season is in the books, so you know what that means. It's time for Week 9 of my AG poll. So before we get completely started here, if you are new here, hit that subscribe button down below for me. I do post movie content, sports content, gaming content. So if that sounds like something you might be interested in, hit that subscribe button. And if you happen to enjoy this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up for me. And let me know down in the comment section your top 25. Who do you agree with? Who do you disagree with? Who would you add? Who would you take out? Let me know down in the comment section. Let's have a discussion. All right, so with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into it. Dropping out from last week, I have Iowa and Clemson. Both of them dropped out after losing this week. But let's get started. Number 25, James Madison. Probably not the strongest team, but they are undefeated, so I'm going to give them props there. Haven't lost any games yet, still rolling. They may end the season undefeated. They actually do have a legitimate shot at that, so we'll see what happens with them. Number 24, Tulane. Tulane, actually, their only loss is to Ole Miss, which, as you'll see later, is in my top 15, so not a bad loss whatsoever, and they did that with their backup quarterback. So Tulane probably going to ultimately be in the conversation at the end of the year for the team to represent the group of 5 in the college bowls, but it could be Air Force, could be James Madison, could be somebody else. I don't know. We'll see. Number 23, making a reappearance in my top 25, Miami. Now, I know they have 2 losses, but if you take that Georgia Tech situation last week out of the equation where they blew that game, this is a top 25 team, no doubt. They beat Clemson today without Tyler Van Dyke, their quarterback. And again, if you take out that situation, and it's hard to do with the record, but they should have beat Georgia Tech last week or 2 weeks, whenever they played them, whenever they did that kneel-down situation where they took taking a knee. I think it was 2 weeks ago. They should have won that game. So Miami, they're a top 25 team. They've won. They beat A&M. They only lost to North Carolina. Solid team. 22, Air Force. They've won 12 games in a row. Air Force looking pretty dominant. They have a solid win this year over Wyoming. Look for Air Force to keep on rolling. 21, UCLA dominated Stanford today, and their only 2 losses are the 2 ranked teams that I have up above them, so can't really knock them for that. 20, USC. I know they haven't beat anybody, but their losses, again, in my opinion, right now are better than UCLA's. Lost to Notre Dame, which arguably is a top 10 team, in my opinion. And then also today, they barely lost to Utah. Now, USC is not what I expected at the beginning of the year. I'll admit, I thought they were a college football playoff contender at the beginning of the year. I had them ranked in my top 4, I think, to start the season, but that's not happening right now. They don't look like the same team as last year. Last year, no, they didn't have any defense, but they were still a threat to make the playoff, you know what I mean? And this year, that's not happening. 19, North Carolina. They were in my top 10 last week, being undefeated, but they lost a game today. Really should have won this game. Lost to a 1-loss Virginia team. I don't know what I can really say here on this one. Should have won it. They didn't. But you're going to get dropped about 10 spots when you lose to a 1-loss team, if not more. So 19, North Carolina. They only have 1 loss, but it is obviously a bad loss. But they could move back up the rankings depending on what happens. 18, Duke. Lost to Florida State today. Only other loss to Notre Dame. Really had a shot at beating Florida State today. Quarterback went down, Riley Leonard, and they kind of just couldn't move the ball at all when he went out. I'm not sure if he stays in if they win that game or not, but it's obviously it doesn't matter now. They lost, but you could make an argument there that if he would have been in, they would have gave Florida State a closer game than it was because they were ahead, I think, until he got out. Until he got hurt. So Duke still a top 25 team for me. Still a top 20 team. If he can stay healthy, Riley Leonard, I think they can compete with everybody else in the ACC. 17, Louisville. I know they're coming off a loss to Pitt last week, but they do have a chance to make that up if they can still run the table in the ACC because they've beaten Notre Dame. So if you can get over that fluke, maybe it's fluke, I don't know, we'll see. If you can get over that fluke against Pitt, Louisville can start moving back up the rankings. 16, Utah. I've been saying all year if Cam Rising was the quarterback right now, if he wasn't injured, this is a top 5 team, and they are USC's kryptonite. Caleb Williams and Lincoln Riley can't beat Utah. They announced after the game that Cam Rising is done for the year. He's not coming back. So Utah, look for them to be in that top 20 range all year probably, but without Cam Rising, it's going to be tough to move up. 15, Oregon State had a bye this week, but they have beaten Utah, so I give them the edge right here between these two teams. 14, Missouri beat South Carolina today. Missouri, kind of surprising. Still only have that one loss to LSU. And them and the two teams above them that I'm about to talk about kind of are going to all stick together because they barely beat each other. But by the season's end, it'll all play itself out. You know what I mean? Some of them will drop, some of them will go up. But these three teams, talking about Missouri at 14, LSU at 13, Ole Miss at 12, all beat each other barely by, a touchdown or so. Ole Miss beat LSU by a touchdown. LSU barely beat Missouri. So I'm going to keep them in this order for now. But if I had to pick out of these three teams, I would say LSU looks the best right now. But they do have those 2 losses, so that's kind of holding them back. But I'm not going to really knock them for playing Florida State in the preseason because I've really seen teams schedule tough preseasons. You know what I'm saying? When they play cupcakes like a lot of these teams do, I hate to reward them because obviously LSU would only have 1 loss if they wouldn't have played Florida State in the preseason instead of played a Division II team. But they did, so they have 2 losses. But LSU, probably the best out of these three in my opinion. And then 12, Ole Miss. I've said it all year. They're going to beat who they should beat. They're going to lose to who they shouldn't beat. That's how it's going to be. 11, Notre Dame. Their defense is dominant. They dominated USC last week. Their only loss, excuse me, their only 2 losses, okay? They lost to Louisville. That one's still to be determined on if that's a good loss or not. Their other loss to Ohio State, which they should have beat, they blew that game at the very end. But Notre Dame, to me, looks like a top 10 team. Number 10, Oregon. I'm going to go ahead and get this out of the way. I'm not a believer in the Pac-12. They're all going to self-sabotage each other by the end of the year. They're all going to beat each other. And Oregon looked okay today. They didn't have any issues with Washington State, but Washington, who is supposedly the best team in the Pac-12, looked like crap today against Arizona State. And that's going to happen. You're going to have games like that where that happens. But against Arizona State, a 1-loss team, little suspect. Number 9, Alabama. Watch out for Alabama. They got one test out of the way. I know Tennessee fans, I know y'all crap on me every week for not ranking Tennessee. I'm going to be honest. After the first half, I thought I was about to have to rank Tennessee because they were up, what were they up, 20 points or something like that on Alabama. I know Alabama closed the game on 27-0 run. I thought I was going to have to rank Tennessee for you. Good thing, good news. I don't have to because Alabama ended up beating them anyway. But Tennessee gave them a run for their money. But Alabama, that's one test off the list. Look for them in Georgia to meet in the SEC championship. And I don't know. Don't be surprised if Alabama beats them. Just saying. You heard it here first. Number 8, Penn State had their first true test today. They've looked dominant all year till now. Played Ohio State, which is a tough matchup. And these teams, talking about Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, always a pretty close game. But Ohio State really shut down Penn State's offense. And I think Penn State was 1 for 16 I saw on third downs, and that's not a recipe for success there. But we'll see if Penn State can bounce back. 7, Texas looked bad today. Struggled with Houston. I think they were up 21-0, I believe, Texas was. And then somehow let Houston back in the game. Now, Quinn Ewers is out. If Quinn Ewers is out, Texas might be in trouble. I don't know who they're going to turn to, Malik Murphy or Arch Manning, to be determined. But that's a big blow there. Same thing happened last year, if you don't remember. Texas is rolling. Almost beat Alabama last year. Quinn Ewers gets his hand hurt, gets his finger hurt, gets hurt, comes back with a hurt finger, and then just isn't the same. And I don't know, might be a recipe for what's about to happen again. We'll see. Number 6, Washington struggled with Arizona State today. I thought they were going to lose that game. Honestly, if Arizona State's receivers could catch, they probably would have. Or if they could kick. Arizona State went for it on every 4th down. And I think they were 1 for 5 on field goals for the year. If they could make field goals, they would have won this game. 5, Oklahoma struggled with UCF today. A lot of teams struggled today, to be honest with you, teams that you wouldn't expect them to. But that's going to happen some weeks, but nobody really got dipped, besides North Carolina. But Oklahoma struggled with UCF, but them and Texas look kind of similar. Coming off a bye and that big game against each other a couple weeks ago, that may have been like a hangover effect. But yeah, number 5, Oklahoma. Number 4, Georgia. I dropped them this week because the two teams above them actually played somebody, so I'm going to give them a little credit there. Now, Georgia does have a little stretch here where they're playing so-called top 25 teams. I know they love to rank the SEC teams just to give them quality wins, but if they can win out here, they're going to be in the playoff regardless, so it's not going to matter. Number 3, Florida State. Look for number 3 and number 2 here, Ohio State and Florida State, to be number 1 and number 2 when they release the college football playoff. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens in that order because they kind of have the best quality wins, in my opinion. But 3, Florida State beat Duke today. Then they've also beaten LSU, another big win. They've beaten Clemson. So Florida State has some really quality wins here and should run the table and win the ACC probably. But there's a lot of, I say that, there is a lot of one-loss teams in the ACC that might could give them a run for their money. We'll see. Number 2, Ohio State. Passed another test today. They have beaten Notre Dame. Now they've beaten Penn State. Like I said, look for them to be ranked number 1 when the playoff rankings release. They look good today. Dominated Penn State on defense for the most part. And that was without their starting running back and their second receiver. So if they can get them back, watch out. Then number 1, Michigan. I know they haven't played anybody, but unlike Georgia, Michigan's dominated everybody they've played. They've beaten the crap out of every team they've played so far. So until something happens, I'm going to have them at number 1. Now, we'll see. Apparently, they're still in signs now. So, are they going to suspend Jim Harbaugh another 4 games? I don't know. But I can tell you this, in my opinion, this is going to be Jim Harbaugh's last year at Michigan. With all this stuff going on, all these investigations, he's going to leave. He's going to go back to the pros. Don't be surprised when that happens. All right, so that's my top 25. Let me know your rankings down in the comments section. Like I said, who do you agree with? Who do you disagree with? Who would you move around? If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. And also, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give us a thumbs up for me. So, until next time, AG, out.